Good morning, everybody. I know I said I wasn't going to do a video on greasing the truck, but I just found out I'm probably going to be here an extra day. So I thought, why not? So let's get the hood rolled over. This truck right here is super duper easy to grease because it has disc brakes and not drums. So you're losing, I guess, two grease zerks per wheel position. So that's pretty nice. And that's pretty awesome. So I'm gonna show you guys the brake caliper real quick. But first, see, I was greasing my hood mounts, and then I started putting socks on here, and that really helped with the squeaking, and it's a lot cleaner. But when you grease it, you could just walk over there with like your pointer finger and roll the hood over. The socks, I guess, they spread those mounts a little bit up there in the front. Kind of makes it difficult to pull over a little bit. Kind of got to yank on it a bit. So, and I was thinking about changing the fuel filter, but as you can see, this is the same fuel filter in my video a couple of weeks ago. I think this thing's got close to 30,000 miles on it. It's nowhere near the change, so I'm just gonna leave it, I guess. So I don't know. I have noticed the level will go up and down a little bit. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it does. I need to call my mechanic and ask him about that, see what he thinks about it. Anyways, all right, so there's the brake chamber. Here's the caliper, and as you can see, no S-cam, no slack adjuster. So we save a lot of time not greasing that. And then right there is the remote grease linkage. So that's got the clutch linkage, cross shaft, throwout bearing, and another cross shaft. Both sides of the transmission, I'm guessing. So, and then the same thing on the back here, you know, drum brakes, no S-cam, no slack adjuster. There's the chamber, there's the caliper. So all we have to do is grease the drive line and front end and the remote linkage. So you save a whole bunch of time greasing one of these trucks versus the old style truck with everything underneath the truck and the drum brakes. So that's, you know, this isn't like a Peterbilt thing, I don't think, but I think you can get any truck with this remote, or it might be a specifically Peterbilt thing, but I think they have them on Kenworths. But you can get a truck without one of those. So just because it's new doesn't mean that it's going to be this easy to grease. So, you know, you can still get one with drum brakes and none of that remote lube linkage and all that stuff on it. So, and it'll take you a little longer to grease. But this truck, if I really hustle and bustle and get after it and don't have to change my grease gun out too many times, 15 minutes. So, and I haven't been greasing it myself. I've been taking it to the B-line and getting it greased because, you know, I haven't been spending enough time at home, and I just, you know, I'll just leave. And also, I'm not gonna lie, for what they charge me to grease it, $20 or no, probably $40. It's worth not having to crawl around in this cleachy and everything. But since we got to be home an extra day, I'll go ahead and save the money and grease it myself today. So I gotta go over to my pickup, get my grease, and get my grease gun out of my step box, clean it up, and load it up and start greasing. I'm not going to grease my fifth wheel though because it's too tall. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to go pick a trailer up, crank the gear down, set it, you know, make the trailer taller, and then pull up, then unhook from it, then grease it, then latch back onto it. So another thing that I'm going to go over today, not in this video, but in another one, I'll make it its own video, is you know, a couple of guys were commenting on my video for why I bought my truck and calling me a moron and this and that. And I don't know if it's because, you know, I speak slowly, everybody says it's a southern accent. But anyways, so I don't know if it's because of my accent or the manner in which I speak, which is slowly, or what, or if it's because I drive a 389. In the case that it has nothing to do with the way I speak and has everything to do with the truck I drive. I am going to go over the numbers for why I think this truck is more profitable than your fuel squeezer. Now, it's not more profitable in every case. It's more profitable because fuel ain't $5 a gallon. Fuel gets $5, $6 a gallon, it's gonna be a different story, I promise you. But fuel ain't $5, $6 a gallon, is it? Hadn't been in a long, long time. Doesn't look like it's gonna be for a long, long time. Now, I don't know, it could change, but ever since we had the shale revolution in Texas, fuel in North Dakota and wherever else, Colorado, Wyoming, fuel has gone down to a pretty manageable cost and stayed that way. So, you know, I can remember whenever I first started, fuel was like $3.70 a gallon, you know, but here in Texas, it's routinely under $3 a gallon. So, the reason that this truck is more attractive is resale value and build quality, okay? So, we'll go over all that here in a minute. I don't really care that people call me morons. People call me a moron. I mean, it's not really a big deal, but I just hate for people to, in my opinion, be misinformed and think that the buck stops at fuel economy, because it doesn't. All right, there's a whole lot more to the picture than fuel mileage. So just like there's a whole lot more to the picture than a truck note, because I've had trucks I had one truck that had an $800 truck note. I had another truck that had a $0 truck note. And then I had another truck that had a $900 truck note. This truck note is $3,000. This truck is cheaper than any one of those ever thought about being, even the $0 one. So, and by cheaper, I mean more profitable, okay? Because that's the end goal, all right? Your monthly fixed costs and all that BS, it doesn't make a doggone bit of difference. What matters is profit, okay? That's the only thing that matters. So, and FYI, I'm not running any $5 a mile freight, and, you know, nobody's paying me, you know, 10 grand to go from Texas to Arizona. So, anyways, back to the matter at hand, greasing. I like this red and tacky grease right here. It's a little more expensive. It's like, I think, $5, $6 a tube. But I was using that junky old 80 cent a tube grease from Tractor Supply, and it didn't really give me any problems. But I want to show y'all something. I wish I had one of them cheap tubes of grease to show with, but I don't. Here, okay, I'm gonna mount this thing somewhere. Okay, so I want to show y'all the texture of this, and I don't know if the point will really convey very well through the video, but see, whenever I open one of those cheap tubes of grease, there's a whole bunch of just liquid down in there. And this stuff right here is pretty doggone solid. And see there, it stays together quite a bit better and all this. See? So, I'm a pretty big fan of this stuff. And I've noticed it does last longer on my fifth wheel. So, this is what I use. And I think it's what they use at Speedco as well. So if the professionals are using this stuff, you know, there's probably a reason, right? So anyways, let's get to greasing. Or well, first we got to get the grease gun out and make sure it's got grease in it. Load it up. But also we're gonna have to clean it off. So need to get a can of brake cleaner. Hey, look, I got a couple of tubes of grease in there. Good. So, and I'm not going to use 4 tubes of grease on the truck, I don't think. Usually I go through about a tube and a half, usually. We'll see what happens. But my front end's greased pretty good, so, you know, I don't have to go hog wild on my steering linkage and all, or any of that, so. I don't even think you're supposed to grease the steering linkage that often, according to the owner's manual. But, you know, some habits are hard to shake, they say. Okay. All right, here's the grease gun. I'm gonna go clean this off real quick. As y'all can tell, it's pretty doggone nasty. I ain't used it in quite some time. So I'm gonna go clean it off real quick. I will be back. All right, so I recorded my entire grease job, and somehow or the other I put my camera in photo mode and didn't realize it. So I recorded 2 shots, and what I really did was I took 2 pictures, and I was toting my camera around and didn't even realize it till just now. I was inside trying to put some video together before I ran to town real quick, and I didn't even realize it, that I didn't even put that I was just toting my camera around, not even recording. So y'all missed the grease job and some things I found wrong with the truck, so I'll just go ahead and fill y'all in on what's wrong with the truck. Was wrong. So this bolt right here was missing, and then I took that one out to try to go into town and get it replaced. Broke it trying to put it out, so then I bought 2 new ones, replaced those. Everything's fine. That little tubing there is to keep my half fenders up out of my tires, so that's what that's for. Here's another thing that happened. This grease zerk down here on the bottom of the kingpin, right there, it was just spitting grease back out at me. So while I was in town, I grabbed another grease zerk and replaced that and everything, and greased her up. You see the debris on my rotor there where I squirted it with brake cleaner and cleaned all this stuff off right here and everything. So anywho, that's the deal with that. So this is my not a grease job video. Gosh almighty. Yeah, I went in there and I was like, why won't these things play? And finally I realized there were pictures, and I turned my camera on and I looked, and it just said it was in photo mode. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because I was over here and I had changed out a tube of grease on my grease gun, and I videoed it, and then I mashed the button on the side and it made some funny beeps, and I thought, well, it's never made those beeps before. Well, I guess what I was doing was I was putting it in photo mode. So that's awesome. That's what I get for not checking. So anyways, that's the deal. Truck's greased, ready to go. Probably will be leaving day after tomorrow, as far as I can tell. But right now I'm gonna run into town and get some lunch and get a briefcase so I can organize all my where I keep my paperwork and everything, because I'm sick of it being there underneath the chair looking like crap. So I'm gonna get a briefcase and all of that. So anyways, that's what's going on. Little Sally wants to come outside and run around. I'm still planning on doing the video about why I think there's a whole lot more to look at than a truck note and fuel mileage. And that's still in the, I'm still planning on doing that. I'm wanting to do that sometime tonight, but doggone, I cut my pinky open. I didn't even feel when I did it. That means there's blood somewhere on my truck. Ugh. Golly, what the heck? I don't even feel doing it. Still doesn't hurt. I mean, it doesn't hurt. I don't know what the heck happened. My pinky's going numb. So anywho, that's the deal with that. I still want to do that video on why I think that that this truck is not as unprofitable. Okay, come on. Come on, little Sally. I know, it's like a prison in there. Why I think this truck, come on, climb. You gonna help me talk to him? You gonna help me talk to him? Why I think this truck is not as, you know, everybody like on Facebook and stuff, they just seem to think that it's completely ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous to drive a hooded truck. And, you know, I thoroughly disagree. I looked at Freightliners. I was going to buy a Cascadia or a Western Star before I bought this truck. Mid-roof Cascadia with an X15 Cummins in it was $165,000. It was $6,000 cheaper than that truck. And that was with no bells and whistles on it, no chicken lights, no half fenders, blah, blah, blah. So probably this truck would have been just cheaper, just bare bones. And, you know, and I've talked to several people who run Cascadias. They told me about the fuel mileage they're getting. It's better than that. Now they ain't getting 10 miles a gallon. They ain't getting 12 miles a gallon. They're getting 6.5, 7, 7.5. So they're doing about a half a mile to a mile better than I am. You know, I guess I just have a little, I think that the cost of ownership is a little more important than the cost, you know, than the cash flow, the cost of cash flow. You know, I'm a little bit more concerned with how much money is this thing going to be worth when I go to get rid of it than when, you know, than it getting, you know, over 7 miles a gallon. It'd be nice if it got 7 miles a gallon, but it doesn't. So, and another thing, you know, is where I run. I don't think I would get that good of fuel mileage in an aerodynamic truck because of all the mountains and everything and how heavy I am. So I don't, you know, that's another thing to consider. And, you know, I see all this stuff on Facebook about these guys and, oh, their cost per mile and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, this and that. You know, and that's another thing that I just don't jive with. You know, it's important to know your cost per mile or to have a roundabout idea. But the thing is it changes every day. You know, you're not running at the same cost per mile if you fuel up in California and you're got a full truckload on, you're loaded to 80,000 and you're going over Donner, versus if you're deadheading through the middle of Kansas on, you know, $2.20 fuel versus in California, $3.70 fuel. So, you know, it's, you know, so that, you know, I don't really focus on that. You know, it's important to know, you know, you can't be running around for $1 a mile and all this, you know, expecting to make a decent living. But, you know, I just think there's a lot of, that the information available out there today is kind of shallow. You know, it's important, you know, to know. I mean, you can know what your cost per mile has been up to a certain point, up till right now, but it's just, you know, it's not the be all end all. You know, it cost me on a 30-day month, 12,000 mile month, with tire costs and everything figured in. It cost me $168 a day to own that truck. That's truck note, insurance, license plate, e-log, IFTA, tire costs, grease jobs, oil changes, blah, blah, blah. The only thing that's not figured into that is fuel, because when you park the truck, the fuel stops. So, $168 a day plus fuel, and then that's my daily cost of operating. And that's on a 30-day, 12,000 mile month load figure. So if I do less than 12,000 miles a month, that daily cost is going to go down, because I'll be getting a little longer out of my oil changes, a little longer out of my grease jobs, a little longer out of my tires theoretically. However, my cost per mile will go up because the fixed cost doesn't move, but since there's less miles to divide it by, the dollar figure goes up, you know. So, you know, that doesn't include a salary for me or any of that stuff. That's just like break even, you know. So I can actually turn a little profit averaging about $1.20 a mile. It ain't fun. I don't like it. You know, I wouldn't like it if that were to happen. But if my choices were sit here and spend $4,500 a month having that thing parked in my driveway, or go turn a modest, you know, 37 cent a mile profit, I would take the 37 cents, you know. Because there's a hell of a lot of difference between being $3,000 up or $4,000 down. That's a $7,000 spread. That's a lot of difference. That's a lot of difference. So, I don't know if I'll include all this in there or not, but, you know, I've had the cheap truck note. I've had a paid off truck that was a fuel efficient truck. And that truck right there is still cheaper. So, you know, everybody... You know, I was reading a Facebook post today, and guy was saying, it's like, oh, I bet y'all are all laughing at us now, huh? It's like, no, I'm not laughing at you, man. You know, I mean, that, you know, that 60 mile an hour aerodynamic truck definitely cash flows more money than my truck. But the difference is when you go to trade that doggone thing in, and resell it, it ain't worth anything. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't understand that. You would think that the truck that cash flowed more money would be more desirable in the market, but for some daggum reason, it ain't. And I don't know why. That's just the way things are. All right, so I didn't make the rules. I just observed them. So, anyways, that's enough rambling on all that. We'll get into that. We'll get into that more later. I'll get my whiteboard out and everything, and we'll go over all the numbers and everything. And I'll go over these numbers with my truck, and I'll find a used 389, and I'll find a brand new Cascadia, and I'll go over numbers in that truck, and I'll do all that. So that's the plan, man. So all right, we'll catch y'all guys here after a while.